The Chicago Bears have officially locked in their 53-man roster, and with that, a wave of questions, excitement, and uncertainty crashes into Hallis Hall. It's a moment every franchise goes through, but for the Bears, this year feels different. There's a buzz around the building, a sense of anticipation that something is brewing in Chicago, and not just because of Caleb Williams. This roster cutdown gave us more than just a list of names. It gave us a glimpse into the vision of this coaching staff, the priorities for this team, and the battles that are far from over. Let's start with the running back room, or what's left of it. The Bears kept only 3 running backs on the active roster, and that number is even more concerning when you factor in the injury situation. As of today, only DeAndre Swift is fully healthy. Roscoe Johnson and Khalil Herbert are both nursing injuries, and Travis Homer has already been placed on short-term injured reserve, meaning he's out for at least the first 4 games of the season. That leaves Swift, and only Swift, as the sole healthy back ready to carry the load for now. It's a dangerous game to play this close to the season opener, and the Bears may be forced to act quickly to bring in reinforcements. The lack of depth has already caused the coaching staff to get creative. Reports suggest that wide receiver DJ Moore took snaps at running back during practice, highlighting just how desperate the situation has become. While Moore is a versatile athlete, relying on your star receiver to take reps at another position due to injury depletion is a sign of concern. It's one thing to get creative during games, but it's another to start prepping that creativity before the regular season even kicks off. It tells you just how thin the margin for error is in this current running back situation. Head coach Ben Johnson was asked about the issue, and his answer was far from definitive. He didn't provide any clear updates on the return timelines for Johnson or Herbert, and he didn't seem ready to commit to any specific backup plan. It's classic coach speak, keeping things close to the vest, but that only adds to the growing anxiety among fans. It feels like the Bears are flying blind at one of the most physically demanding positions in football. A solution may be coming via the waiver wire, but for now, this position group feels fragile. Then there's the quarterback room, and for once, it's not the source of the biggest drama in Chicago. Caleb Williams is the guy, the number 1 overall pick, the new face of the franchise, and the quarterback tasked with erasing decades of mediocrity at the position for the Bears. But what's interesting is how the Bears chose to handle his backups. Tyson Bagent earned himself a spot as the QB2 after an impressive preseason, and veteran Case Keenum sticks around as QB3, bringing a wealth of experience and a mentor's touch. Most assumed the Bears would carry only 2 quarterbacks and stash the third on the practice squad, but keeping 3 on the active roster sends a message. The Bears are prioritizing stability and preparation at the most important position. Speaking of surprises, one of the most talked about stories coming out of this final roster was the rise of wide receiver Jayad Walker. The undrafted rookie not only made the 53-man cut, but earned a spot in a wide receiver room that was already crowded with talent. With Devin DuVernay sidelined due to injury, a player mostly expected to contribute on special teams, Walker stepped up and forced the staff's hand. Alongside DJ Moore, Rome Oduns, Luther Burden, Zach Oz, and Walker, the Bears now field a dynamic and youthful receiving core that could surprise a lot of people this season. Walker's inclusion is a feel-good story, but it's also a sign that this staff is serious about rewarding performance over pedigree. Tyler Scott and Miles Boykin just couldn't match what Walker brought during camp and preseason. Defensively, things got even more interesting with the decision to keep 5 edge rushers. Montez Sweat, DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker, Daniel Hardy, and Dominique Robinson all made the roster. But it's Robinson's name that raised the most eyebrows. Bears fans haven't seen much production from him in his time with the team, and when a player like third-round pick Zach Pickens gets left off the initial cut, it makes Robinson's inclusion all the more curious. However, this is a staff that has spoken positively about him all offseason. Ben Johnson and defensive coordinator Dennis Allen seem to believe there's still untapped potential in Robinson, especially in a rotational role. He's not being positioned as a starter, but someone who can rotate in and perhaps line up in different spots. This is about depth and versatility, and the Bears are clearly betting that Robinson can still become a contributor in the right role. And when we talk about defensive rotations, we also need to talk about health. Jalen Johnson being removed from the non-football injury list is a huge sigh of relief for this secondary. While it's still not guaranteed that he'll suit up in Week 1, all signs point to him trending in the right direction. And with his new role under Dennis Allen, a role that could see him moving around the field more instead of being locked into one side, this could be a breakout season for Johnson. The Bears have been conservative in the past with how they use him, but that may be changing. The linebacker group also got a shakeup. Carl Jones made the team as the 5th linebacker, while Amen Ogbongbemiga lands on short-term IR. Injuries continue to play a major role in how this roster is shaping up, and it's worth keeping an eye on how the team adjusts. With the waiver wire claims deadline looming, the Bears still have an opportunity to grab more depth pieces, and they'll have a top 10 priority to do so. Several intriguing names have already been linked to Chicago as potential targets. One name to watch closely is Aldrick Estime, a running back waived by the Broncos who showed flashes during the preseason. He's a bruising, downhill runner with good vision and could be a solid insurance policy behind Swift while Johnson and Herbert heal up. The Bears need someone who can take immediate snaps if needed, and Estime fits the bill. Another player drawing attention is Isaiah Foskey, a defensive end who was once a second-round pick but never found his footing in New Orleans. His upside is still there, and a reunion with Dennis Allen, who knows him well, could unlock something that didn't quite click elsewhere. Another intriguing running back option is Devon Martinez. A rookie out of Miami, he put up decent numbers in preseason, including a pair of strong showings in the final 2 games. He's got the build and physical style that could complement Swift well, and while he may not be a long-term solution, he could definitely help stabilize the room in the short term. The Bears can't afford to walk into the regular season with only one healthy back. Moves have to be made. At cornerback, Beanie Bishop is a name that could generate some real interest. The Steelers released him, but not for lack of talent. He had 4 interceptions and gave up a passer rating of just under 60 when targeted last season. He's undersized, sure, but he plays bigger than his frame and could offer valuable depth at a position where the Bears are already dealing with injuries. With both Jalen Johnson and Josh Blackwell banged up, having another young corner who has already shown he can hang in the league could be a smart move. And at linebacker, Nick Jackson, who led the Buccaneers in tackles during the preseason, might be worth a look. He's not a high-profile name, but he plays with instinct, hustle, and physicality. He's another guy who wouldn't be asked to start, but could be a meaningful contributor on special teams and step in if injuries mount. But perhaps the most scrutinized position heading into this season, outside of quarterback, is the offensive line, particularly the left tackle spot. Braxton Jones remains the starter, and that decision is stirring strong opinions across the fan base. Some believe in Jones' upside, pointing to his physical tools and flashes of competence. Others are more skeptical, frustrated by his inconsistency and vulnerability to power rushers. Ben Johnson's comments about the position were clear. Nothing is locked in. He acknowledged that if performance dips, changes will be made. That's a refreshing mindset. Too often in the past, this team has clung to starters long after they've stopped performing. Not this year. Johnson made it clear that every starter has to earn that title week after week. The offensive line as a whole looks much improved, especially on the interior, with Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones on the outside, and newcomers like Drew Dalman, Jonah Jackson, and Joe Thuney holding it down in the middle. This is potentially the best line the Bears have had in years. But that's only if everyone performs to expectations. And for Braxton Jones, those expectations are high. The team has already started experimenting with other players at left tackle during practice, including rookie Theo Benedict, and that's not by accident. It's a signal that the leash is short. If Jones doesn't step up, someone else will be given a shot. And while all of this is happening, the spotlight continues to grow on Caleb Williams. The pressure of being the number 1 pick in a quarterback-starved city like Chicago is enormous. Every move he makes is being dissected, from his pre-snap reads to, bizarrely, even his socks and fingernails. Some of the criticism is football-related and fair, but a lot of it is just noise. His teammate Rome Odunze summed it up perfectly when he said that being yourself while also being the number 1 pick makes you a target. Williams is under the microscope, and that's not changing anytime soon. What matters now is how he responds. He's already shown poise, leadership, and a tireless work ethic. But those traits have to translate into results on the field. The Bears have invested everything into this kid. And it's not just about showing flashes, it's about winning games. For Caleb Williams, the only thing that will quiet the doubters is performance. That's the burden of being a franchise quarterback. No one cares how hard you practice if the wins don't come. And in Chicago, fans are tired of waiting. The leash is short, the expectations are sky high, and the time to deliver is now. And let's be real, some fans are never going to get on board, no matter how well Williams plays. That's just the nature of the beast. But if the Bears come out strong, if Williams plays smart, fast, and makes the right reads, he'll win over a lot of those skeptics. This city is hungry for a winner. And if Williams can bring that to Chicago, all the nonsense about socks and fingernails will disappear. The margin for error is razor thin, especially with an early bye week in Week 5. The Bears cannot afford to start slow. And 0-3 start could snowball quickly into a disaster, especially in a division that's suddenly looking much tougher than it did a year ago. But there's hope, real hope, in Chicago. And it starts with this roster, this 53-man group that will carry the weight of a franchise desperate to turn the page. And as we keep diving into the details of the Chicago Bears roster and what it says about the state of the team, you start to realize just how much this year is going to come down to execution, growth, and whether or not this coaching staff's vision can actually translate onto the field. It's not just about the names that made the final cut. It's about the message behind those decisions and what they reveal about how this team is preparing for one of its most pivotal seasons in recent memory. Everything from the depth chart to the injury management to the developmental prospects being prioritized, it all paints a picture of a team that's building towards something but still has plenty to prove. Let's talk more about that left tackle spot because it's quietly one of the most important positions on the field when you have a rookie quarterback under center. Braxton Jones remains the starter, but it's not because he dominated through camp or blew away the competition. In fact, he looked shaky at times, especially when dealing with the same issues that plague him last season, getting bull rushed, overcommitting on the edge, and at times struggling with his footwork against speed. The fact that the Bears kept trying different players at left tackle throughout the preseason, even giving reps to rookie Theo Benedict, tells you everything. The coaches aren't sold. They're hoping, yes, but trusting? That remains to be seen. Jones is on a trial run, and the leash is shorter than ever. Ben Johnson made it clear, performance is king. If Jones can't hold it down and protect Caleb Williams' blind side, they're going to make a change. That's not an empty threat. We've already seen this coaching staff willing to make tough calls, even when they go against expectations or prior investments. It's a new tone in Chicago, one that demands results instead of leaning on potential or draft status. That's a culture shift. And with a player like Jones, who's had moments of solid play but has yet to establish himself as a consistent presence, the pressure is on. He doesn't need to be elite, but he needs to be reliable. And with the depth chart behind him looking more experimental than proven, his margin for error is slim. This kind of situation is exactly why offensive line development is such a crucial aspect of a young quarterback's growth. Caleb Williams isn't just trying to adjust to NFL speed. He's doing it with a line that's still gelling. Yes, the additions of Drew Dalman, Jonah Jackson, and Joe Thuney give this group a much-needed boost in experience and quality, but offensive line play is about cohesion, not just talent. They've had limited time to build that chemistry, and you can't simulate real pass rush intensity until the bullets are live. Every missed block, every busted protection puts your quarterback in harm's way. And when your quarterback is the most important investment in franchise history, that's a gamble you can't afford to lose. So the Bears are betting on coaching. They're betting on Dan Roushar to get this unit in sync, betting that Braxton Jones can hold the line long enough for the offense to find its rhythm, and betting that if he can't, someone else will be ready to step in and take over. And that mindset, that readiness to pivot, is perhaps the most encouraging shift we've seen from this team in years. Because let's face it, how many times have we seen the Bears stick with a guy for too long? How many times have poor performance and stubborn loyalty combined to sink a season. This time around, they're signaling that those days might be over, at least for now. But what makes all of this so fascinating is how it connects back to Caleb Williams. Because at the end of the day, everything on this roster is being built around him. And rightfully so. He's the #1 overall pick, the future of the franchise, the quarterback that the front office believes can finally break the curse that's hung over this position since, well, forever. But that doesn't mean he's immune to pressure. In fact, he might be under more pressure than anyone else in the building. From the moment he was drafted, the microscope was on, and not just from Bears fans. The national media is watching. Other players around the league are watching. Every move he makes, every throw, every read, every misstep is going to be dissected. Some of it is fair. Some of it is nonsense. But it all comes with a job. Caleb knew that when he signed up to be the face of the Chicago Bears. And so far, he's handled it with a calm and maturity that's been impressive for someone his age. He doesn't look rattled. He doesn't sound unsure. And that quiet confidence is what you need when the noise starts getting louder. Romo Duns said it best. Being yourself while being the #1 pick is going to draw hate. That's just how this league works. And in a city like Chicago, where the fan base is passionate, desperate, and conditioned by decades of quarterback disappointment, the bar is impossibly high. It doesn't matter how great Caleb looks in practice. It doesn't matter how sharp his press conferences are. If he doesn't deliver on Sundays, the questions will keep coming. And that's why these first few weeks are so critical. If he can get off to a strong start, if he can lead this team to some early wins and show flashes of what made him the top pick, it changes everything. The pressure never disappears, but it becomes manageable. The noise becomes background static instead of a deafening roar. And let's be clear, there are absolutely valid football concerns about Caleb Williams. This isn't just about socks or fingernail polish or social media. It's about mechanics. It's about decision-making. It's about whether or not he can operate an NFL offense with efficiency and consistency. Ben Johnson has already talked about the areas where Caleb needs to grow, getting the ball out quicker, reading defenses faster, trusting his progressions, avoiding unnecessary hits. Those are all real areas of development. And that's not a knock. Every rookie quarterback has a list like that. The important part is that this coaching staff has a plan. They're not just tossing him out there and hoping for the best. They're crafting a development path that forces him to grow, to adapt, to elevate. You want your quarterback to have room to grow. You want him to take leaps throughout the season. If Caleb Williams were already a finished product, that would actually be a bad sign. It would mean there's no ceiling left to hit. But with Caleb, the ceiling is sky high. And you can see it. Even in the preseason, the arm talent is obvious. The mobility, the vision, the off-platform throws, it's all there. Now it's about putting it together in real games, under real pressure, against defenses that are doing everything they can to confuse and rattle him. That's where we find out what he's made of. Not just physically, but mentally. That's why it's so important for this team to get off to a fast start. Because if they stumble out of the gate, if they go 0-3, heading into a week 5 bye, the conversation around this team is going to shift quickly. The positivity from camp and the preseason will evaporate. The scrutiny will intensify. And fair or not, much of it will land on Caleb's shoulders. That's what comes with being the guy. And you can already sense the divide in the fan base. There's the group that's all in on Caleb, trusting the process, seeing the big picture. Then there's the other side, the doubters, the skeptics, the Beijing battery crew, still banging the drum for a quarterback change if things don't go perfectly right away. And if you're in that second group, I've got some bad news. That's not how any of this works. You don't throw away a generational talent because he struggles early. You coach him. You support him. You build around him. Because if it works, if it clicks, you finally have the one thing this franchise has lacked for its entire existence. A real quarterback. A difference maker. And that's worth being patient for. And yes, this roster is young. There are growing pains ahead. But there's also real talent. Romo Duns might be the most polished rookie receiver in this class. DJ Moore is already a top-level playmaker. The interior offensive line is vastly improved. The defensive front looks more versatile and more aggressive than it has in years. The secondary, if healthy, could be legit. There's a foundation here. Now it's about building on it. That's why the next few weeks are so critical. Not just for Caleb Williams, but for the entire team. These are the moments that define a season. Can you win close games? Can you respond to adversity? Can you stay healthy? Can the coaching staff make the right adjustments in real time? It's all going to matter. Because the NFC North isn't going to wait for the Bears to get their act together. The Lions are loaded. The Packers have found something in Jordan Love. And even the Vikings, despite their own questions, have enough firepower to make noise. There's no easy path here. The Bears have to earn every inch. And that's what makes this season so compelling. It's not just a rebuild anymore. It's a test. A test of the front office. A test of the coaching staff. A test of the young players. A test of Caleb Williams. The future is here. Now it's time to find out if they're ready for it. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL world woke up to one of the most unexpected twists of the offseason, as reports emerged suggesting that offensive tackle Mai Beckton, formerly of the New York Jets, is heading to Chicago to join the Bears. The news is spread like wildfire across social media, stirring heated conversations about what this means not only for the Bears' offensive line, but also for the long-term strategy of the franchise. Fans and analysts alike are wondering whether this is a gamble, a stroke of genius, or simply a desperate move to patch glaring issues that plague the Bears in recent seasons. The rumor mill has always been relentless during this time of year, but the whispers surrounding Beckton's arrival carry a different weight, almost as if the ground beneath the NFC North has shifted overnight. For a team historically tied to its grit and hard-nosed football, adding a towering figure like Beckton might signal the beginning of a bold new chapter, one that could either restore glory or expose miscalculations. Nobody seems entirely sure where this is heading. Yet everyone agrees the Bears just lit a match under what was shaping up to be a relatively predictable offseason. As the speculation continues to spread, insiders are quick to point out the implications of bringing in a player like Beckton, whose career has been marked by flashes of dominance, mixed with bouts of inconsistency and injury concerns. His physical tools are undeniable. Standing at 6'7" and weighing well over 350 pounds, he brings a rare combination of size, reach, and brute force that can single-handedly neutralize elite pass rushers. However, the Bears are not blind to the risks involved, especially considering Beckton's history of knee problems that limited his availability with the Jets. What fuels the chatter even further is the question of how Chicago intends to integrate him into their offensive schemes, particularly with the ongoing development of their young quarterback. Protecting the blind side has long been a weakness for this franchise, and if Beckton can regain his rookie form, the narrative might quickly shift from rumor to revelation. But if his struggles resurface, the Bears could be left explaining why they chose to pin part of their hopes on a player whose reliability has always been questioned. The uncertainty is precisely what keeps this rumor alive. Behind the scenes, whispers grow louder that Chicago's front office has been working quietly, refusing to let leaks dictate the pace of their decisions. And this apparent move for Beckton fits perfectly into that pattern of sudden disruption. While other franchises have opted for safer, more conservative acquisitions, the Bears seem determined to roll the dice on upside, banking on Beckton's potential rather than being paralyzed by his past. The buzz in league circles is that this signing reflects a front office that is no longer content to rebuild slowly. Instead, it wants to accelerate the timeline toward contention. Fans who have long craved aggression from their team's decision-makers may see this as a refreshing shift, while skeptics warn that boldness without caution is a dangerous game in the NFL. The timing, too, is intriguing, arriving just when rival teams believe Chicago would remain passive, quietly preparing for the draft rather than shaking the chessboard. In some ways, the rumor has become bigger than the signing itself, a signal that the Bears may be rewriting their identity, no longer content with half measures, but instead embracing the risk-reward chaos that defines the most daring franchises. Adding to the intrigue, Coaches and former players are already weighing in on how this potential move could transform Chicago's offensive dynamic. Some see it as a decisive shift toward building an intimidating line that finally provides the stability needed to unlock the true potential of their backfield. Others question whether Beckton has the conditioning and discipline to survive the physical toll of a full season in the NFC North, where winter games become grueling battles in freezing conditions. Either way, the rumor has sparked widespread discussion about the Bears' trajectory, framing them as a team that may no longer be resigned to mediocrity. For years, Chicago has been trapped between sporadic bursts of promise and long stretches of frustration, unable to solidify its place among the conference's elite. If Beckton delivers on even half of his potential, he could become the cornerstone of a line that changes that narrative. If not, he risks becoming yet another cautionary tale of talent that never fully materialized. This duality of possibility is exactly what makes the story irresistible, feeding the endless speculation that swirls around the NFL during these unpredictable months. At its core, the story of Mai Beckton joining the Bears represents more than just a personnel move. It embodies the essence of off-season rumors that capture imaginations and spark heated debate. Whether this deal is already signed, still in negotiation, or merely a product of clever leaks designed to stir excitement, it has undeniably succeeded in placing Chicago at the center of attention. From locker rooms to talk shows, from message boards to barbershop debates, everyone seems to have a theory about what this move means, and that constant chatter is the lifeblood of the league's drama. For the Bears, being in the spotlight carries both opportunity and danger. They have managed to inject themselves into conversations that previously revolved around other franchises, but they also risk being scrutinized in ways they may not have anticipated. Ultimately, the truth will surface in due time, but until then, the rumors surrounding Mai Beckton's arrival to Chicago will continue to fuel speculation, hope, doubt, and endless debate. In many ways, that uncertainty is the very point, because in the NFL, perception can be as powerful as reality, and right now, the perception is that the Bears just changed the game. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.